G'day everyone, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about taking nature photos in hard light, and this is a topic that I think is a really interesting one and one that I deal with quite often as someone who photographs in Australia, where we typically have hard light when we're going out to do nature photography. Unless you're really going at the start or the end of the day, you're often dealing with these sorts of problems. Now, often people will say not to photograph in hard light. You know, you wake up for sunrise, you take some photos, go back, have a nap, look at your images, and then come back out at sunset. However, discarding that middle part of the day is really doing yourself a disservice. There's plenty of nice photos to be taken in hard light. You just need to think about the photos in a little bit of a different way. So we're going to talk through some of the techniques I use when taking photos in harsh sunny conditions, both from the technical side of it and also some creative things to think about as well. So next time the sun's shining, you can go for a nice bushwalk, take some nice photos, and you can ignore all that rubbish about not taking photos in hard light. Let's get into it. So the first big problem we're going to come across is to do with exposure. When we're photographing in things like bushes or rainforests with hard light, we typically have very bright highlights created by where the sun's hitting and then very dark shadows wherever the sun isn't hitting. And it can be difficult to work out an exposure that gets the best of these two sort of ends of the dynamic range spectrum. So there are a few things we can change on the way that our camera reads and records light in order to get the best results from these. The last thing you want is washed out looking photos, which you will typically get in your camera's automated default settings, where everything just looks pretty bad, pretty ordinary, and there's none of that drama that we're actually seeing with our eyes in front of us. So there are a few settings that I use when I'm photographing these situations. The first is I use priority mode, so something like shutter or aperture priority, depending on the situation, mostly aperture priority. And this is because light is often changing quite a bit depending on what our framing actually is. You can use full manual, and there's nothing wrong with using full manual, but it's very slow. And I'd rather spend more time taking photos than fiddling around with my settings. I know with this combination of settings on my camera that using one of those halfway in between aperture priority, shutter priority, automated modes will get me good results most of the time. The second thing I use is spot metering, which metering is the way that our cameras read light, and typically by default the camera will read light based on anything or everything it sees in the scene. We actually want our camera to be looking at just a really small amount of light. So spot metering will take the light reading from the very middle of the frame, typically, and we can point this towards our highlights so that our highlights are well exposed. We want to focus on our highlights in these sorts of conditions and not worry about the shadows too much. I use spot metering in combination with auto exposure lock. Auto exposure lock allows us to lock in our exposure on some part of what's in front of us, and then we can shift our framing and change our composition so that we're photographing a different part of the scene, but still keeping the exposure that we locked in before. Lastly, I'll use exposure compensation just to make any fine-tuning adjustments if I need. If I notice that my highlights are reading a little bit too dark or a little bit too light, then I can dial in the exposure compensation to help compensate for this. Another thing that could cause you some dramas when you're taking photos and give you a fair bit of inconsistency between your shots is the white balance. So how the camera is actually interpreting the color of the light in your scene. By default, our cameras are often set to auto white balance, which means that the camera's colors are changing based on the colors that it's seeing in front of us. If you're pointing the camera towards a blue sky, then the camera will read all that blue and it will add warmth to the image, making the sky look more dull. White balance is typically designed to neutralize color casts, and we don't really want to do that. We want to be recording color as it is naturally. So I set my camera to a manual white balance, and when I'm shooting in the middle of the day, so anytime after sunrise, before sunset, I'll typically just choose the daylight manual white balance on my camera. This might not be perfect, but it keeps our photos consistent, and then if I need to, I can make adjustments once I get to the actual editing stage of things. Okay, so that's all the technical stuff we're going to worry about. There's focusing we could talk about too, but just to keep this pretty straightforward, we won't worry about that so much. Let's get into the creative side of things, and you can use whatever focusing mode you're comfortable with, depending on if you're photographing moving or stationary subjects. The first creative thing I'm going to talk about is backlighting, and this is the single best reason to photograph in hard light, in my opinion. When we're photographing things from in front, what is happening is the light's coming from a light source, the sun in this instance, it's hitting our subject and then it's bouncing back into the camera. This can be nice depending on what we're photographing, but it can also make things look a little bit dull and a little bit bland. Backlighting, however, will make the colors absolutely explode off your screen. And the good thing about when we're photographing translucent things like leaves, for example, and we've got really strong light coming from behind them, it'll just, the light rather than bouncing off the subject will go through the subject, and it'll make those colors absolutely explode out of the frame. It's one of the best ways to shoot, and you can get so many interesting photos when you're shooting in nature by using backlighting with a hard light source like the sun on a sunny day. What you want to do is just be observant of the light and try and position yourself behind your subject when it's got some sort of translucency to it. So leaves are perfect, flowers can work well too, you know, cobwebs, for example, capturing the light from behind looks really nice. Think about how you can position yourself so that you've got your subject between you and the light source, and yeah, this will change depending on while you're walking around. So you'll often find you'll get some nice photos walking one direction, completely different set of photos walking the other direction too. My second suggestion is not to get into the habit of always just looking at what's directly in front of you. You want to also look straight up and look straight down and use those angles to take interesting shots. One of the best parts of looking up on a really sunny day is you get this brilliant blue sky, which acts as a backdrop for all that nice canopy and foliage that you're getting in your trees. And you can walk along a path looking up the whole way and just work with the different shapes and textures that you're getting out of those trees and be presented with endless nice shots to take. Same with looking down. When you're looking down, you're getting all those wonderful textures in the ground. And the good thing about hard light is it's really going to bring out that three-dimensional feel to those textures. So you can use the shadows and the highlights to really make those leaves, the dirt, the rocks all really pop out of the frame. You still want to be mindful of your general rules of composition when you're doing these sorts of shots. They typically end up more abstract, but you still want the eye to go towards a certain part of the frame. So use things like leading lines and rules of thirds in order to balance the frame and to direct the viewer's eye towards a particular point of interest. Keeping on the theme of abstraction, rather than actually focusing on things like the nature in front of you, you know, the birds, the bees, the trees and all that sort of jazz, you can actually use the shadows as your subject itself and have a look at the interesting ways that all those things around you are actually creating shapes and shadows on the other parts of the environment. This is where you can start to go really abstract, you know, and just think about sort of form and tone. Black and white works really well for these sorts of images because we are talking about those things like form and tone, and we can start to think about how the shadows are actually creating interesting photos rather than the literal subjects themselves. Another thing that's really easy to achieve when you're photographing in bright sunny conditions is sunstars, which are when you get those star-shaped flares in your photos from pointing the camera towards a source of light. The trick to doing this is shooting with a very narrow aperture, which is a large aperture number, for those who are familiar with the numbers, or a large aperture f-stop. Large f-stop, not aperture f-stop. That doesn't make much sense. Anyway, you get the idea. You want to choose a large number for the aperture. The bigger the number, the bigger that f-stop, then the bigger your sunstar will be. The trick to getting these to be really effective is to try and put the sun just on the edge of something. So that could be the edge of a branch. I know I said we were doing nature photography, but I got a photo here. There's a big cross sculpture on this bushwalk, and that just was perfect for shooting a sunstar with. So forgive me for that. But you want to put it just on the edge of what that object is. And that'll give that star-like effect to it. You'll typically be using a pretty quick shutter speed when you're doing this too. I will tell you to be a little bit cautious when you're doing this sort of thing. Typically this is better done on DSLRs because if you're using a mirrorless, you can damage your sensor. The reason for this is that on DSLRs, when you're composing the photo, you're looking at the image bouncing off a mirror in your camera's body. So the light isn't actually being shone onto the sensor. It's only when you take the photo, the mirror goes up, shutter opens, and the photo captures that light in a split second. It's not going to cause any damage that way. When you're shooting with a mirrorless camera though, however, all that time while you're composing the photo, you're getting that light condensed and shining onto your sensor, which could potentially cause damage. It's just like using a magnifying glass and using that to condense the light from the sun. So, you got to be a little bit careful with it. I will admit I used a mirrorless camera to take the photo we just saw before. You know, sometimes you gotta risk your equipment for a good shot, but I don't want anyone to damage their equipment. So be very careful. Be aware of the risks, and if you're going to do it with a mirrorless camera, work really quickly so that you're not exposing your sensor to too much light. My last suggestion is to look for the little things in the scene. Often when we're in these sort of epic landscapes, we get too carried away with the scale of what's in front of us, and we want to capture all of it in the one photo. Often what that'll do is it just ends up being an uninteresting shot. You're better off taking lots of photos of all those little details and then using those individual moments to stitch together and form some sort of narrative project. So look for the little things around you, the little flowers, the little bugs and the beetles, the little, bits of nature that are capturing those pockets of light. And think about how you can bring those little details out and make them more grand through your images. What you want to try and do is use the light, use those bright highlights and position them so that they're over something dark. And that'll give you a really theatrical sort of look and it'll make your subject just pop out of the frame. Okay, so there are all the tips for shooting in nature photography in hard and harsh light. Hopefully that's inspired you to go out and take some photos yourself, and hopefully next time you're out taking photos on a sunny day, you'll be able to get some really great shots. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll catch you on the next one. Enjoy the rest of your day.